I think we're on here.
Oh, good morning. I'm just
Hey, good morning.
typing away here.
Happy Saturday.
There. Happy Saturday, everybody. We're Sean and Allison McManus. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Those of you that are here with us that we know and that are here a lot of times, we're really excited that you're back.
Yeah, we have a very interesting, we think, topic to talk about. We're going to kind of be on a lot of different pieces of this. We might be all over the place, but we thought this would be a fun, different topic for us to cover and just have a discussion. We don't have a lot of slides, and so we just wanted to have a discussion between the two of us, and then you in the chat. Thank you for being here, by the way, and then also let us know at different points when we're asking each other different questions what you think too. Let us know in the chat.
Thank you. We're both wearing gray, so we're very neutral today on this topic. Maybe that was like intended.
I don't think. Well, we'll see.
A little neutral.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But,
yeah, that made me laugh. I'm like, oh, we're good.
Yeah, we matched today.
We match. Tracy, thank you. She said our new set looks nice, and we wanted to see what you guys think.
We were wondering if anybody would notice.
I know. We've had that stripy background for like years, and we just kept.
Since 2020.
We brought it with us from our old house, and 2020. Oh my gosh, we started going live in 2020. Wow.
That's how long we've had.
That's how long we've had that. So this has been something we've been like wanting to do for like 2 years now, and we just it's like a low priority kind of.
Yeah.
Because we're so busy.
Thank you, Tracy, for saying you like it.
I know I'm rambling.
Thank you.
Yep. We're kind of playing around with it a little bit, but thank you.
Yep. And if you have any questions about what's behind us, just let us know. There's a couple different things up here. We'd love to talk about them. If you're interested,
Plant life.
I mean, not really the book. I mean, you probably already know that we have the book. If you want to know about the book, that's fine too. But I mean, the plants are a little bit more interesting, right?
I know, and that's fun. Let's see. Okay, so we have. Jermaine is here from Cape Town, South Africa.
Oh, hi, Jermaine.
Where they garden 12 months a year.
Lucky, or maybe not. Maybe you don't feel so lucky because you got to do it a lot. You got to do it 12 months out of the year. I don't know.
It like never stops.
Yeah.
That must be how they feel in Hawaii. I mean, it's like a blessing and also like
possibly a curse.
I just want a break.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Jermaine.
I know that's really interesting to us because
cool.
we definitely have the seasons here.
You know what, Jermaine? Yeah. Let us know what you grow specifically in your garden, like especially during this time of year, because right now our garden is completely shut down. We live so far north in the hemisphere that we can't really grow anything. Nothing's actively growing that we can see. So let us know what you're growing that's actively growing right now. That'd be fun.
I just thought of something off of that for Jermaine in South Africa. One of our favorite plants that we haven't grown recently, but is gazania, and that's native to your area, I believe. It's bred differently, which fits along with our topic today.
Yeah, there's a lot of hybrids out there for gazania.
A lot of hybrids. But gazania is that's a really fun plant to grow.
Yep.
Let's see. Okay. Tracy and Valerie are here. Yay. Hi, you guys.
Hi, guys.
Hope you're doing
Thanks
well.
For being here.
Up in our area, like in the Pacific Northwest, we had a lot of people had a lot of snow or ice, or we just had kind of a colder winter than normal. Not normal, but then we have
it started out really mild, and kind of dry, but a little wet. And now the temperature just dropped by like 20 degrees. And it was like a low of like maybe 19, 22 degrees at night. So, and we did have some snow. The last couple of weeks we've had snow, so it's been interesting.
It has been interesting. So now rain for a while.
Good. I see Kevin's here.
Oh, Kevin.
Hey, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin from Hawaii. Kevin, what's going on in Hawaii, Kevin? How are you doing today?
Yeah, and also, Kevin, let us know what you're growing right now if you're growing anything.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, what are you growing in Hawaii? What's going on there?
That's really fun to think about. And Tracy, thank you for saying that you have our book, and she said she's given it as a gift as well.
Wow, thank you, Tracy. Thank you. That's really nice.
Yeah. So we're here today. We're really excited. You already kind of teased our topic. We're talking about flower breeding today.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, just really quick, the title, if you haven't seen it, is just Plant Breeding, Innovation or Overindulgence. Where do you draw the line?
Kind of, I know. It's like, so what we wanted to do, I wanted you to chat about this. You had
Well, really quick. This, we work with a lot of companies. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. On our homepage, if you go all the way to the bottom, you'll see some of the different companies we work with, and it's such a blessing to work with them.
It is a blessing.
And so today we want to talk about this topic, but Just to let you know, all the companies we work with, they do their due diligence in making sure that all these plants are vetted correctly, properly. They're not invasive. They go through a strenuous breeding program. All of them do. And all of their partners do too. All of their breeders that are within their branding. They go through a really strenuous breeding program where they're looking for they're not only breeding for the different traits that they want to, bring to market that are brand new, innovative, and all these different things and useful, but they're also looking for making sure that these plants aren't invasive. They're making sure they're not going to pose a problem to gardeners in general for being too aggressive or invasive or self-seeding or taking over or pose another problem with hurting other plants around them. I mean, and my main point here is they're just making sure that it's not going to be a problem. So just wanted to put that out there. Very first thing, just to make sure that we're framing this correctly and we're not saying breeders are, there's nothing wrong with what they're doing.
No.
It's just we want to have a discussion today and just kind of bring a different way of thinking about it.
Well, right. And to bounce off that, I mean, flower breeding is absolutely amazing what they can do.
It is.
And that's why we thought the poll for today, we wanted to ask you, what is your favorite thing about, bringing new flowers into your garden? Because a lot of us don't even think we're out selecting plants. What's your go-to? What's one of your highest priorities? A lot of you have said color. I mean, everybody said color so far.
Wow, that's cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's probably mine too.
Yeah.
I think color is probably the main reason because your eye is drawn to a certain color or a certain, but I go for shape too. I think shapes are so interesting. And like you mentioned a minute ago, we were talking about gazanias and just how many, hybrids there are now, and of every plant you could possibly think of.
Yep.
So this is why we wanted to talk to you guys about this topic. And just, I mean, every year there's like a new zinnia. There are like multiple new zinnias coming out.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, probably, can't even put a number to it. Maybe.
Oh, well, every year's different.
Every year's different.
So, but yeah. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to finish that thought just real quick. You think, like, how can there be another new zinnia? I mean, aren't like zinnias or zinnias, right? How can there, I mean, what are we doing what are breeders doing that's different? And like, how do they predict what is going to be popular? Because one thing that we'll talk a little more about this, but breeders if you never thought about this before, it's really fascinating that breeders have to actually like start this process like 10 years before that comes to market.
Yep, 7 to 10.
7 to 10.
Or longer, depending on the species and what kind of plant it is. Perennial versus annual, hardwood, tree, depending on what it is.
I think that's so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. Well, and, a lot of people, and this could be a little controversial in and of itself, but a lot of people get mad when certain plants are bred to not have viable seed. And, and I get that. I think we both understand why you might say that, because you don't want to have somebody control certain plants, whether they're flowers or crops, all the time for that seed. It doesn't seem right to a certain extent. But at the same time, it's good to control sometimes that flower seed, because if it is viable, maybe they know, but maybe they don't know, whoever the breeder is or producer is of it. Maybe they don't know how invasive that plant could actually be. So they're self-selecting in the evolution of that plant to make sure that it doesn't affect the natural environment too much or at all.
Right.
So, and that can cross over also to flower breeding and the different flower species that come out. And a lot of people say, well, if you're only selling F1 hybrid, why don't you have, I want viable seed from that F1 hybrid, and I want them, I want a stable genetics from it and stuff. I was like, if you have an F1 hybrid, most of the time, the genetics aren't stable at all, and you don't know what you're going to get after that first generation, that F1 generation. So that in and of itself can be a big crapshoot, to put it bluntly. And then also, the breeder might not want those seeds to be viable just because they're not exactly sure 100% if it'll just get out of control. So it's a self-selection, it's a self-selecting piece of that breeder and of the branding and, everybody through that whole process to make sure that here's this beautiful plant. Yes, we want you to have it in your garden, make your garden unique, have this new species, but at the same time, we're not 100% sure what's going to happen if it has viable seeds, so we don't want to run the risk and be responsible for that. So we're going to make sure it doesn't have viable seed.
That's really interesting. And that's okay. So that kind of brings my mind to thinking about, I always have to kind of place things on like a visual spectrum because I'm just a visual person. So thinking of flower breeding, it's almost like, from heirloom would be at one end, right? An heirloom type seed, something that's been around for a long time.
And it has viable seed.
And it has viable seed.
Yeah, year after year, it has viable seed.
So heirloom all the way up to like the craziest plant breeding at the other end of the spectrum, which we're going to show you an example in a few minutes. And so our idea was just thinking about all of these different spectrums. Then you can place in, just different breeding categories, I guess, along the way, or maybe categories isn't the right word, but levels.
What would be an example of that?
I guess color, flower color.
Okay, definitely. So that's
taking an heirloom and maybe altering it somehow.
So continuing the breeding over and above what's already been done in that person's garden year after year after year after year, taking that in, giving it the professional breeding, put it through the professional breeding process for a new color or new taste or new form.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, in my head, that's kind of how I'm categorizing it, I guess, because there's wacky breeding going on. Is it necessary? And that was kind of our idea for this discussion, is just thinking about like how much is, the innovation part of it is just amazing. I mean, it's real. I think we could all agree that the breeding that's going on and that has happened over the years, it's like incredible what people can do with flowers.
And that we can do it at all.
Well, the fact that we can do it at all. We got a really cool chance to visit an actual plant lab last year. Was that no, 2 years ago?
You're talking about Proven Winners?
No, it was the at Ball. Remember there was this big science lab.
2 years ago.
2 years ago. And all these scientists were, I mean, they're literally breeding and like altering genes and doing all this like crazy stuff.
And if you think of a lab and people in Tyvek suits and gloves and stuff, that was part of the lab. That was part of the breeding process. It was cool to see. It was really cool to see.
And they had like this big like plexiglass or glass type window up where everybody could just watch, and they're literally breeding plants for different colors and different shapes and scents. I mean, I don't even understand how they know how to like breed. You're gene manipulating for a certain, there are chocolate flavored flowers now. Is that natural? Or has that been bred in? I mean, these just bring up so many questions in my mind.
Maybe possibly at some point it was natural. Somebody noticed it and said, I want that. Not only in this plant, I want it in this. I want it in a petunia. I want it in a rose. I want it in, a hibiscus or whatever. So that happens. That does happen where people see that trait and they say, well, that's beautiful and amazing by itself, but I want it over here.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, you could have, maybe some of you have this. I think this is actually kind of a goal for us, side note, is to have a little couple containers that just smell like chocolate. Some people want to design like an entire chocolate garden.
You know what would happen?
And you can do that now.
I know, that'd be pretty amazing. You know what would happen with us, though, is we'd walk by it and we'd instantly smell the chocolate and we'd, ooh, that's good. We'd probably go get a chocolate.
Well,
so
is that so wrong?
Well, for our health goals, no.
Yeah, probably not. Well, and most of those plants probably are not edible either. But thinking about just breeding, like I think how do I word this?
I don't know.
Our takeaway kind of this whole discussion is just to consider the idea that we should have a balance in our garden of kind of from heirloom all the way up to the fun, beautiful breeding bred or well-bred plants that we have chosen for color and whatnot. Right? I mean, it's like a blend of perennials, annuals, and all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't know if you're looking for a response from me or.
Kind of not. I wanted to kind of add that in there because, again, we're not trying to knock any of the breeding that's going on because we think it's amazing.
No, it is. Well, and nobody's really crossing the line that we work with at all. I don't think they're crossing the line at all. They're coming up with amazing new plants that fit a definite certain niche that are so unique and beautiful and add so much to everybody's garden. It's pretty amazing what they can do. I wanted to say really quick, excuse me, from the breeding process, it is amazing what they can do. The old-fashioned way to do it, really quick, if you don't mind me explaining this.
You know more about this.
Because I was actually gonna continue on and study this in different programs way earlier in my life, and I didn't, and that's a different story. But
to your doctorate.
Well, yeah. But the process, there's mainly two different processes, and you can break these down into many processes. But basically, there's the old-fashioned way of breeding, where you take the pollen literally physically from that plant with Q-tip or something else, and you take it over and you physically put it into another flower, pollinate that flower, and then you collect the seed from that flower, that whole crop that you physically took the pollen over um, and fertilize those flowers with. You take that seed and then you plant it out, and then you see what characteristics, new characteristics, or just track those characteristics um, from that next genetic line. From that progeny. They call it progeny. And so, and you track all that. And if you're looking for a specific trait, well, then you document it, and then you you take that plant that you want, with those characteristics you're looking for, or you want to develop more. It's showing signs of the characteristics you want, but it doesn't exactly have what you want. So you want to develop it more. So you fertilize it again with either the same fertilizer of the same pollen from the plants you planted out before, or you take the new crop, the new flowers that you have from that new genetic line, and continue to pollinate those flowers with that pollen. And over time, and those different progeny, the different numbers, you basically get to a point where you find that specific trait. Now, that takes many, many years. It can take many years unless you're able to grow things in a greenhouse and um, artificially have all the environmental factors that it needs to grow, like zinnias or anything like that. Now, the other way to do it is through doing it through a lab and doing like cutting, basically cutting up genes and splicing in other genes. And they can do all this. Um, CRISPR was something years ago that people were using, or CRISP or something like that. And then I know there's more. Yeah, so basically they're taking a strand of DNA that they would cut, and they would know first they would find that DNA gene of that specific trait. They would identify it, and then they would say, okay, well, here it is. We want to replicate this, so we take that gene within that species or within that family even of plants. Well, species or gene, or yeah, the genus or the family, if you can, if you want to go that far out. Um, they take that gene, identify it, then they clone it, and then they take it and they insert it chemically, and they're chemically cutting and then splicing in this new clone gene. Um, and then they take that and um, they go from there into trying to generate the seed, and then insert that in the seed, and they do all these different things.
It's incredible.
And yeah, it's crazy. There's a lot of different pieces to it, but it's pretty amazing that they can do this anyway, but then those specific things. And so that's generally your two different processes, either the old-fashioned way or in the lab, like chemically gene splicing and doing all these things. So
wow. And today we have plants and flowers in just about every color you can think of. And the big example that keeps coming to my mind is something we all talked about last week on our Saturday Live last week, was just dark foliage. A lot of us still really like dark foliage. It was kind of a really big trend a couple years ago. It's still out there. You guys, there are more plants coming on the market this year that either have a dark flower color or the stems and leaves and the actual foliage are dark colored, or even black.
It's like a mini industry of the gardening industry.
It completely is. And whether you like it or not, it's amazing to think about that in itself, because they had to, like, for example, the eclipse hydrangea, which is one of our favorites. We have quite a few of those in our yard. It's a beautiful hydrangea. It's taken them like 8 to 10 years to bring that to market. So my mind always goes back to, how did they know that long ago that something like this would be so popular today?
I don't think they did.
Isn't that amazing?
I don't think they could forecast that. Maybe they can, because there's always, things go in trends, things ebb and flow.
True.
But the other side of it is, I think a couple companies, this is how I think it rolled out, really. A couple companies came out with this new trait, this dark trait, and then the market reacted. All gardeners out there reacted to it, whether good or bad. And then they saw the demand for it. So then they started putting more of this into their gene programs, their genetic programs, to get more plants like this and build up that part of the market. That's what I think happened.
That's insane. Okay, I want to pause really quick. Hi, Mark, in the chat. Mark said he said our volume is a little low, and he has his volume all the way up.
All right, buddy.
We're
Thank you.
Fix it. Yeah. Thank you. And there's so many things going on in the chat. I wanted to.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's hard because we're talking, and I want to say respond to you guys. So Super Cater Tot, that's a fun name. A couple minutes ago said for her, she likes shape.
Okay.
and all flock shapes, it sounds like.
Ooh, okay.
Everybody
cool.
started talking about chocolate when we were mentioning the chocolate garden. So
right?
maybe you need to, add some chocolate scented. There's
funny.
chocolate scented roses. There's chocolate scented geraniums, like the foliage.
Yeah.
There's chocolate mint, mint. Yeah, there's a lot, you guys.
It's pretty cool.
There's a lot.
Yep, it's pretty cool.
And Jermaine from South Africa has mentioned a couple things. They were saying that they grow gazanias in their own garden.
Oh, so cool.
They definitely grow year-round.
Awesome.
So that was a previous chat we were having with them.
That's really cool.
And Jermaine mentioned that geraniums actually look duller than the ones in the wild there in South Africa.
Really? That's interesting.
So I find that, that's really cool.
Jermaine, really quick, is it duller in flower color or duller in the leaf color, like the green? Or what? Can you tell us? Unless that was in there.
No.
Okay. Maybe it's the flower color, but I'd like to know specifically flower or leaf. That'd be fun. It'd be fun to know.
That would be fun. I know. I would love. I mean, that's on our bucket list. Someday we'll get down there and check out all those gardens.
Oh yeah.
Wow. But Valerie let us know that the volume is a lot better. So thank you. You guys are awesome.
Thanks, guys. Sorry about
that. Let's see. Jermaine, is that tissue culture? To your previous point.
So the tissue culture would go into the more lab tech side of it. Yeah, you can do a mix of all these different types of techniques, from my understanding of it anyway, for plant breeding. You can mix in just the traditional plant breeding with tissue culture. You can also mix in the lab pieces with genetic splicing, chemically splicing and cutting those DNA strands. I mean, you can do a lot of different things, and all the companies we work with, they do it all.
Yeah, they do.
They do it all. They do either do a mix, or they're more traditional, or they're more lab based. It's amazing.
It is amazing. So a question comes to mind, and just thinking of breeding as a whole, not calling it bad or anything. I mean, there's so many amazing.
By the way, good question, Jermaine.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
But how, where's the balance in genetics? Is it possible that breeders could go too far?
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
And is it even necessary? Is it just, is it getting to a point potentially even today in today's market where plants are just being bred just crazy amounts of different ways, if that makes sense, different colors, shapes, whatever, just because they know that they'll be sold out in the public because of a certain color or a trend or whatnot. So it's where's that balance?
Well, and the balance not only for the consumer, between the business and the consumer, but what's the balance also between, what's also the balance between, producing something to progress gardening and these plants further and further on, balanced out with money.
Yeah,
revenue.
There's so much money.
Where do you, the morality of it too? Where do you draw the line? There's all these different things. I think this has come up a lot with Monsanto and all these different crop type of companies where they've manipulated the market for their own gain, and they've done some possibly bad things, that are still being litigated to this day. And I don't want to get into that. Because that's not really
dark.
But I mean, that's an example of how things could possibly go off the rails. And so, it is a balance. I think all of our partners do a really good job of doing the balancing part of, they want to push the limits of these plants, but they also want to balance it out with making sure that it's controllable, it's not invasive, it's not going to be poisonous to your pets or to your family members or anybody. So I think they do a really good job of balancing that out.
So so let's show them our example.
Okay.
Right? So we want to see what you guys think about this. We talked about this a couple years ago, but is this breeding gone too far? Okay, so we're going to show you a picture here, and we don't want to say if it's right or wrong. We just want to see what you think about it.
Sorry guys, wrong slide. Right slide.
Okay. So again, is it possible that some breeding has gone too far and it's not necessary? It's just kind of, maybe for fun because they can do this or they, want to try it. But is it, there's so many questions that come to mind. So as this is coming up on your screen here, this is a glow-in-the-dark petunia that is literally on the market. It's called Firefly. And it's kind of cool. It's at the website light.bio is their website. And you order these petunias that you can see on the bottom left of the screen there. There's actually just a pretty white petunia.
Yeah, they look beautiful. They look like a normal petunia.
Yeah. And but in the dark, there's a photo, fluorescence kind of going on, and they actually glow. So lots of questions come up for that. Obviously that's not something that we need to have a garden or anybody needs, but is it just something that's cool that you would add to your garden? Or is it like ridiculous breeding, like way too far?
That's a good question.
Right?
I think another piece of this is if you want to have a moon garden and you want to attract nighttime pollinators, this would be a good way to not only attract them, but to watch them.
Yeah.
You could actually probably watch. You'd have to get up kind of closer to them or use your binoculars from a distance because you don't want to spook them. But, that would be fun to see nighttime pollinators. But again, go ahead.
You go.
Well, so I can see where this could have an unintended effect where you're attracting a lot more pollinators at night than you wanted to. That could lead to problems of just swarms of moths and different bugs and pollinators coming in at night. If you have a planting like this, not only of this, but other plants that glow in the dark too, you could have a little bit of problem with a lot of different insects and different pollinators coming in all at once. And, what kind of effect is that going to have on the rest of your garden?
Exactly.
Is it going to be noisy? Are they going to fight? Are you going to bring in certain, not only pollinators, but predators? That would be predatory to those species of pollinators at night. I mean, I'm just putting these questions out there.
I literally have all the same questions because I'm thinking if it's lit up at night, it's not naturally supposed to do that. It might actually detract pollinators. So you might be pushing them out of your yard unintentionally.
Certain kinds.
I mean, you would probably not have a big spread. This is in a greenhouse, obviously controlled environment, but or semi-controlled at least. But yeah, if you just had like a little pot or two, they showed some examples of like people having little containers with a couple of these petunias, and they're like either lining a pathway at night so you can see where you're going and whatnot. But it's still, I just wonder about the unintentional consequences.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, and this is just an example of that, but I think everybody, especially the breeders, but even us as gardeners, when we bring things like this into our garden, it's good to think about some of these things about, okay, well, it's beautiful and it's pretty and I'm going to have this, but is there something that's going to happen? Or, like you said, unintentional consequences that, and it's hard to think of everything all the time, but if you want to, if you're looking at the long game, it's fun to think about it. It's good to think about it. But also, if you don't think about it, some unintentional consequences can happen if you think about it or not. It's just going to happen and you'll see it. And then that'll help you further along with your thought process on, okay, unintentional. Oh, wow, I didn't think that was going to happen. That's interesting, whether good or bad.
Yeah, Valerie brought the same point up. Is enough known about these yet?
Exactly.
Because she was like, this would be awesome for a moon garden. I mean, it takes your moon garden to a whole new level. You have a glowing garden now. And as far as we know, this is the only plant on the market, like for sale right now, that has these traits. There's probably potentially more coming, would be my guess.
Yeah.
Because this is already out. Because they did it.
Now when I see stuff like this, it's kind of like, oh my God, that's like, it's almost like a sci-fi movie.
It looks like a sci-fi movie.
In a way, it's like my mind goes, I love sci-fi movies. Just putting that out there.
I know.
But it's almost like the sci-fi movies of, oh, here's this beautiful, pretty thing. And then all of a sudden, something bad happens, whatever that is. And it's like, but no, I'm not saying that's going to happen with this, but I'm just thinking, it makes me think about that as like you said too, Valerie, what's known about it, what's not known about it. And, is there some type of chemical in the leaf or in that glowing petunia flower that we just don't know about that could have an effect on like a bug or something that chews on it, or it breaks down and gets in the soil? I mean, we just don't know. And I'm not saying that's going to happen with this. Again, I'm sure these plants are perfectly fine. They're beautiful. They're going to be fine for your garden. But it just makes me think about those things, the unintentional piece of it.
Yeah, let's And if you want to check those out, because they are cool, they're just like Mark said, though, they are kind of freaky. And I agree with that. But it's, again, light.bio if you want to just see for yourself, like they really exist. It's so crazy. People are, let's see, Jermaine's like, you could line a pathway in the evening. You could see where that would be cool,
That would actually, I like your idea, Jermaine, of, lining a pathway. Maybe that'll just kind of spread a little bit of even like natural light, which would be weird to think about. Now, maybe do that and see if you actually need like solar lights on the side or not. Maybe that'd be interesting. I mean, not that they're supposed to produce actual light, but.
So from that being like the just extreme end of flower breeding that we could find, other than taking something that literally has no, like maybe it's a white natural flower and you've now bred it in every color.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of the extreme. And then, I don't know, it's just, again, back to like, where's the balance and where do you kind of draw the line? Or does it matter? I mean, we all love shopping for plants. We've talked about it we've all talked about it here on the chat, and it's fun to see what new colors are coming out, you know. And this year there's a beautiful new hydrangea. Well, there's more than one, but a great new hydrangea from First Edition Shrubs and Trees that's called Flowerful. If you're going to the Seattle or the Northwest Flower and Garden Show, it most likely will be all over. It's a beautiful white, big, you know, it's a smooth hydrangea, I think.
Yes.
So they've bred this beautiful hydrangea because, I mean, white hydrangea color, that's not new, but they've bred this hydrangea to have really sturdy, strong stems. And they actually have a video on their website of like a 30 or 40 mile per hour windstorm. And the hydrangea is just like straight up just going, oh, we don't care. It's not, you know.
That's pretty cool.
Where instead of like laying flat or getting completely like broken stems, you know, or any of that. And
having those plants in your garden and having some type of extreme weather come through, that is a great benefit, right? That is a really cool trait for that plant to have, and for other plants possibly to have if you live in a place that has more often than not extreme weather.
I know.
That's a great trait to have in a plant.
It would be great. I mean, I think it's amazing. We've got a couple of them in our garden. We'll show you guys. But they should be out in garden centers this year. So that's a fun one if you want to try that out.
Sure.
But there's some fun stuff going on in the chat. Let's pause really quick. Okay, so Tracy mentioned she could see the appeal of people going back to that glowing hydrangea, or sorry, that would be weird. Glowing petunia.
I think it'd be beautiful.
It would be interesting. Yeah. But she said she could see people wanting it, but it reminds her a little bit of the Little Shop of Horrors.
Right.
I know, right?
Right.
Let's see, Valerie. Valerie said she's on the fence with that kind of just the idea of like what's too far or like glow in the dark. As a creator, I understand the desire to make new varieties for creation's sake, but philosophically speaking, is it needed? Does it address a need?
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. And I think that's where most breeders come from, is what need is this filling, not to just go out and produce just anything and all things and see what happens, but they want a specific outcome. There's a specific result that they're looking for. And so definitely, Valerie, that need, or that what are they fulfilling to the consumer and the gardener out there? Definitely.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And Jermaine has a great question about the glow. I knew the glow in the dark petunias. We knew that would be like fun to talk about for a minute. Jermaine's wondering, does the glow in the dark part of it, does it last throughout the life of the whole, like if it's, you know, obviously annuals for most of us, maybe not for you, Jermaine, but does the glow in the dark piece, does it last, or does it like revert at some point, or even like have less of an illumination over time?
Like for that plant growing right there, or with future seed and future plants from that specific plant?
Any or all of the above.
I mean, I would assume. I don't know all. I mean, I haven't read up all the detail on that plant specifically, Jermaine. But I would think over time, you know, from the start, you know, most petunias when they get going, just in general, you know, that flower is just bright color, super bright, and it lasts for at least halfway to maybe 3/4 way through the season, and then the flowers coming out about, you know, mid to late season. There, you know, it's slowing down, but also that color is a little bit different. But that can be from not only, you know, the water, from fertilizer. It can be also that can change from the sun intensity. You know, and through a year, at least at our latitude. That intensity of sun, it changes through the growing season. And so actually South Africa, you would experience the same thing, just opposite time of the year. And so I mean, there's a lot of different factors that can come in and do that. You know, as far as the genetics, I don't know. That's a really good question. I think that's a good question for us to think about, but also maybe we need to find these and grow these and see what happens.
I was just looking at the website light.bio, and I mean, it's showing, because you made me think, like, wait, is it the flowers that were luminescent or the foliage? And
it's the flowers.
It's kind of both.
Oh.
Look. Well, maybe that's just a glow. I'm showing Sean a picture of the petunia.
It's the flowers.
It's the flowers.
It's
You're
the
right.
flowers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of looked like it makes the whole plant illuminate, because the flowers are so vibrant.
Yeah.
Valerie brought up a great point. I think breeding for traits like hardiness is different than breeding for like fun stuff like color or scent or
yes, very much
what you said. But,
very much. Yeah. Definitely different. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Are there any other points you have about breeding that you wanted to ask? Or?
No, I mean, we're covering a lot of different things here. It's where's that balance? What do you and what you, Valerie, and definitely Jermaine, what you guys have brought up. Everybody, I think, in the all the different comments in the chat. It's really cool to just see you guys kind of thinking along these lines and bringing up these questions of what's the need, what's the want, what's going to be useful.
Yeah.
I think everybody has their own threshold. I mean, even between us, there's going to be a little bit of a difference in what's needed, what's not. Where do you draw the line? Is it pushed out further? Is it brought back?
That makes me laugh because it's usually more of a want than a need on my end. Because I'm like, I want all of those. I want those colors. We're gonna do that. It's like, we don't need them, but
and I always look at it from the need. So
it's a good balance.
It's a good balance. But yeah, well, and not only the flower color, but I mean, if we look at this from the side of vegetables, taste, size, crop. How fast to crop from seeding does it grow? Whatever you want to harvest. I mean, there's all these different pieces that are bred into these plants too.
That reminds me. Last week we talked about new AAS seed that's coming to market and this year, and there's a squash called Green Lightning. It's like these. A lot of you commented last week. It's like this cute little green striped kind of little weird ball shape kind of thing, but they've bred it to be like really fast maturing. So I mean, it's a super fast squash, like even faster than some of the zucchinis. It was only like 40 days or something.
Yeah, like 40 days.
That's insane.
It's amazing. Yeah, that's fast.
Great. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's so we just I guess for me, another takeaway from this conversation is just next time we're out shopping for plants, it's just fun to look around and think about all the breeding that went into all these plants that you're buying. It's incredible what has been accomplished over the years and all the colors and just the scents alone. I mean, we didn't really get into that too much other than the chocolate, but which is great. But it's just fun to think about, and just flower breeding is such a massive industry.
It is. And I think it's interesting too for people to think about. I just had this thought. No, I just lost it. Basically, everybody's familiar with certain kinds of plants, and everybody likes specific plants. So breeders are always trying to balance not only the newness of a flower or anything like that, but they want to keep the general sense of what that plant is, what it's known for, and actually keep it within a general genus or species. So you talk about balance.
Yeah.
When you're breeding, I mean, if you're starting off from scratch and you're doing it the old-fashioned way, and you take two different species and throw them together, you don't know what's going to happen, and until you get that new seed, that progeny from that cross, or all the crosses you made, and then plant those out and then grow those and see what those traits are. And we don't get to see that piece of it. We don't get to see all the different things all the different plants and all the different traits when they're doing these genetics, when they're doing these breeding programs. We don't get to see the breadth of those genetics. All we see is at the end what they were looking for, that end result, and what they're presenting to us as consumers. We don't get to see everything behind the scenes and all the different variation, flower color, flower shape, form, leaves, growth habits. Is it aggressive? Is it not? Does it grow slow? We don't get to see any of that. And if you think about that, that's pretty amazing in itself.
Well, it is. And it's fun to think like some of the big company plant greenhouses and whatnot that we visited, they keep like their breeding area, they keep those under lock and key.
Oh yeah.
Because they don't want trade secrets getting out. I mean, it's a crazy
high security
industry.
Top secret.
It is.
Only certain people are allowed in there. Yeah.
There's some really interesting books, and the one that I'm gonna have to look up a title, because if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the history of breeding and like roses and like maybe a little bit about tulips. There was that book we read a couple years ago, and for some reason I'm like blanking, but it was about breeding.
I remember.
And I'll look it up to tell you guys, but it's just an incredible industry.
Yeah. Well, there's stories. You can imagine there's stories behind all these different breeding programs, and how plants came to be, how they were found, and then how they were further bred past that. And so it's kind of interesting if you're really into knowing some of that information about, especially about, like Allison said, even primroses, but definitely roses, cyclamen.
Got it.
Yeah, I see it there. Go
okay, I'm sorry, I totally blanked on this title. It's a really interesting read. It's called Flower Confidential. I'm going to put it in let's see. Well, here's a link to Amazon just if you want to check it out. It's pretty cool.
One of the chapters is about lilies, I believe.
Oh yeah, the lily chapter was really interesting. Yeah. Wasn't that about scent?
Partially about scent, partially also about the flower shape and color, and that history in and of itself is really interesting. How it happened and how it went down and who was involved, and yeah.
Oh wow, that's so fast. I kind of want to reread that book.
And then also, I think there was a couple chapters on Burbank.
Yes.
Wasn't there? Yeah. Luther Burbank
and the Shasta Daisy.
And then some vegetable stories also.
Oh, that's
right. The potato, the Burbank potato, and
you guys should
anyway,
check this book out if you can. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
That's fun. Good find.
Good memory. Well, I knew it was. I just.
Yeah, I forgot about it.
Skipped my mind. Jermaine brought up a good point. There's also another factor we need to consider. Is it going to cost more than a normal petunia, referring to the glow-in-the-dark one? Mm-hmm. The answer is yeah. I mean, it's pretty expensive.
It's so unique. They can, for petunia fanatics, they can command a higher price just because of that uniqueness, obviously. And so, I mean, that's just how it goes. And so, yeah, it's gonna be higher in price. Now, the thing is this is a new introduction. There's nothing to say that, in the next couple of years, other breeding programs, other breeders aren't going to come up with something similar to offer out into the market. So possibly over time, if there's more that comes out into the market, the price of these will drop a little bit. But who knows?
So Firefly Petunia, it's a 3-pack of, like, it looks like, what are those, about 4-inch or 6-inch little
they're 4 or
starter,
6 inch,
little size, those little black pots. $40
for 3 of them
plus shipping and all that.
Wow.
So and like Jermaine was saying, if it's yes, then I'd rather just grow a Vista bubblegum, which we grew tons of Supertunia bubblegum last year. That was one of our favorites.
But if you're, so I can see where if somebody wanted to attract nighttime pollinators, and they're already doing that with certain plants that are either moon gardens or something like that, these plants would be a great addition to that, to set off on by themselves to see what they attract, or mix within what they already have. I can see where people would pay that extra money to do that.
Yeah,
I can definitely see that. So,
but for now, I mean, we can just enjoy the flower breeding that's out there. The beautiful, like, I wanted to let's check in on the chat really quick, or not chat, the poll. We just asked you guys what's like one of your highest priorities, and 75% color.
Yeah, I like seeing the others in there. Those 6% said their scent.
Yeah, that's
and then
fun.
19% the shape. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, taste. Yeah, not so much. We don't usually think of buying ornamental flowers because we're going to eat them, right? We want them to be. Some of them are edible.
Well, like that rose. That rose we have.
Oh, that is a beautiful.
Honey peach.
Honey apricot.
Honey apricot. Thank you.
I know that was
that has edible petals that taste like honey apricot.
Oh, that smells.
And it smells
amazing.
Too. So I mean, there are some plants that are bred for that.
I guess
it's ununintentional.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
Possibly.
Who's going to test that though?
Right? Who wants to taste test that?
No, thank you. But yeah, I mean, for me, I think definitely my highest priority would be color. What about? I mean, we kind of mentioned this earlier, but what would be yours?
Yeah, color. I think also either shape of the flower or shape of the plant. I think that'd be a balance. There'd be a balance there because, I mean, it's in fact, it's all important. When you're trying to design or adding things in for design pieces for your garden, it all becomes important at some point.
That's fun to think. You're breeding a plant for a certain shape, possibly the same plant you're breeding the flower for a certain feature. You're breeding the foliage for a certain feature, potentially like some of the darker foliage. It's like all in one plant.
Yes. Yeah. So let's say it's that petunia, that glow in the dark petunia, and you want to further breed it to not only have the glow in the dark flowers, but you also want it to grow more vigorously, and you want it to be bigger than what it currently is. And let's say you want it to have the same flowers that glow, but you also want it 3 feet tall and 3 feet wide. So it's really becoming more of an annual type of shrub, but you want it to grow still as an annual, and you want it to get super big, but you also want it to be drought tolerant, and you want it to be easy to grow, easy maintenance. So you start throwing some of these traits that we kind of take for granted with all the plants that we have. Yep. And you start throwing all these different traits in there for breeders to come up with, and as a goal to present a plant to us later on. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it is.
That's a pretty big deal.
And it's fun to design, and Tracy just brought up a great point. Just she likes designing grasses for their shape, and also totally. Like trailing plants, and just taking all of these considerations into our own design scheme. I mean, it's just fun. That's when that's probably one of the best things about. Well, not the best. There's so many wonderful things about gardening, but that's just the fun part of it too, as well as just the design, colors, the shapes.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's just it's fun to think about all the work and all the years of research and breeding that went into all of our favorite plants, and we get to enjoy that as consumers, every year, and get excited about the new plants that are coming out that year. And I mean, we just purchased a couple new zinnia seeds yesterday from our favorite Eden Brothers.
Oh, yes.
But there's zinnias everywhere. There's brand new dahlias. I mean, it's amazing.
It is, and all these companies like Eden Brothers, like Park Seed, like Harris Seed, these different organizations. They're always looking for new seeds to present, but they also keep carrying. They hold back some of the really popular ones or the tried and true traditional ones too. So it's fun to see what they're offering, but also what they're keeping. So if you have a chance, go check out. If you haven't already, maybe you already have, but maybe go check out those websites and see what the offerings are this year.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, and in talking about offerings,
a good segue. I know. So yeah, we meant to show this earlier too, but we're really excited this year. We got to kind of, I don't know if renegotiate's the right word, but we got like a higher percentage for you for Eden Brothers, 20% off instead of 15.
How about update?
Update. I like that word better. Update. So we wanted to make sure that you knew Spoken Garden 2025 is a promo code you can use anytime.
Yep.
On your entire order. So there's a lot of seeds and bulbs. Crescent Garden, we have a 15% discount for you of your entire order, anything you want from there.
Yep.
Smart Pots, we still have a great Smart Pots deal, 10% off for you.
Yeah. And so we also added Vigo?
I think it's Vigo.
I always want to say Vigo.
V-E-G-O. I know.
Because the way it's spelled, I want to say Vigo.
I know, I want to call it Vigo.
So Vigo Gardening, we just recently started partnering with them. And so it's gonna be great to partner with them too for like garden supplies, raised beds, and all that, because that's something there's a little overlap with maybe Smart Pots on some of that, but these aren't cloth that they offer at Vigo. They offer basically like the horse trough size, and they have horse trough. They have other modular types of like raised bed gardens, and definitely tools and supplies. And so it's not on here, but it's $10 off. It's a $10 off coupon from them that we're able to offer you guys, our audience. And so wanted to mention that if you want to look at all of these and even the Vigo Garden $10 off coupon, go to spokengarden.com/deals. That's our deals page, and you'll be able to find all of these and Vigo on there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's take some garden questions. There's a great question in the chat, and maybe any general garden Q&A. Because I think we're kind of wrapped up a little with our breeding discussion. That wasn't, we just kind of wanted to throw that out there. And thank you guys for commenting in the chat and asking such awesome questions. That was really fun.
Yeah, you guys, that was really fun.
So we'll definitely have another topic for you next month sometime. Yeah. Valerie, thank you. She said 20% is outstanding. Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
We're excited to offer that too. Okay, so question for you.
Okay.
I know I could probably answer this too, actually, but Nikki in the chat asked,
Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki. Do lavender seeds need to be stratified? I was thinking of putting some seeds in a milk jug outside to stratify.
Yep. They need to be cold stratified. Yep, they do. So that's a great question. Sounds like you're on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they take a cold stratification. I think it's like 3 or 4 weeks.
It's
the ones we've grown anyway,
about a month,
and so different species of lavender might need different stratification. That cold stratification. So if you're not sure, make sure to just vet that out. Our English lavender, I think we planted English lavender. Yeah, it was 3 to 4 weeks of a cold stratification, and then then they were fine. So yeah.
That's a great question. I kind of have a question for you, Nikki. If you like, is your outside, I can't talk today. Is your outside temperature like consistently low? You know, because otherwise, maybe consider putting it in the refrigerator, or to kind of control the temp. Because if it, like here, our temperature has been fluctuating a lot, so ours wouldn't stratify outside at this point.
No.
But if you have consistent cold weather, below what, maybe at least 40 degrees, 30 degrees maybe?
Most stratifications are like, 33, 35 degrees up to about maybe 45 degrees or even 50. But you're right. That the consistency is what's going to make or break your stratification period for those seeds. So if it's not consistent, it's going to take a lot longer for that stratification to be met. And so the more consistent, the better off you're going to be. Definitely.
Just something to think about, right? But how cool. That is, growing lavender from seed. That's super awesome. We haven't started ours of, what are they called? Winter jugs yet. We haven't, we're still sitting here like, oh, we should probably get those going, but we're waiting. Well, we can get those started, but we're going to wait to sow all the rest of our seeds until after next week.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be in Seattle at the Northwest Flower and Garden Show all week, which we're really excited about.
Yep. So we're going to be there all week. If you're going to be there, we'll be kind of just bouncing around, so definitely say hi. Just we think we're pretty approachable.
Please come out.
So, please come up and say hi. We've been trying to get ready for not only the Tacoma Home and Garden Show was a couple weeks ago, but then this show and some different things we're going to be doing there. So we haven't planted any seed yet because we don't want to plant the seed and then have them dry out.
I know, right? I mean,
so
don't want to waste seed.
Yep.
A couple more things. Okay, so Nikki mentioned about the lavender stratification. Nikki's in Syracuse, New York, and temps have been pretty consistent. So
good.
Great.
Okay.
That's
good.
so easy to put them in. Just, what a space saver, right? Okay, Jermaine. So Jermaine asks, they've been struggling with baptisia where they are. Doesn't grow very well, and that's something we don't grow here. I mean, that I know a lot of other people that grow it, but
we've never grown that.
Jermaine wonders if we could recommend a different perennial that has the same texture and color. They love the look of baptisia. That's one that
I'm not that familiar.
I really am not either. I'm gonna look it up. Sorry. I think it's like it's like a wild indigo. It's kind of a.
It almost looks like a
kind of.
The flowers remind me of sweet peas, but it almost looks like a lavender or a rosemary
or a veronica. So what have you tried? You mentioned, I think earlier in the chat, we didn't comment on that, but I think you said something about salvia, and I forgot what you said. But
is baptisia considered an herb? At least where you're at, Jermaine.
Yeah, we grow so many plants. It's just like you can't know them all. I want to look more into that later. But
Jermaine, if you're looking for an alternative perennial that literally is like a Mediterranean, like some Mediterranean climate, like lavender, rosemary, or even veronica, any of those three plants that I just mentioned, would work really well probably. If those don't work, I would suggest looking for a plant that will grow under the same conditions, obviously, as that baptisia.
Well, they're saying it doesn't grow. It's struggling to they're struggling to find one. Would you recommend a different perennial?
Yeah, without knowing more about it, like what kind of, what kind of soil it likes. Is it more drought tolerant, or does it have a more drought need, not a lot of water, or does it need water? I mean, we just don't know enough about it. So sorry.
I know. Sorry.
Good question.
We're not very familiar with
good
that
question.
plant, but now I want to know more.
Yeah.
You guys always teach us about a new plant. Probably every week we're like, what's that? Like we just, you get used to what you're growing or what we. I don't know.
We know what we like. We know what we like, and like a lot of gardeners, they know what they like.
I know, and I love learning from you guys.
Yeah.
Tracy, she asked, going back to the stratification, cold stratification.
Yeah.
She said, "Oh, you can put the seeds in the fridge,
sure,
to stratify."
Yeah. To to do that, it gets a little tricky because things in the refrigerator can become desiccated. They can dry out. If you've ever had any tomatoes or potatoes or even lettuce, if you don't put it in with like wrap it in like a wet paper towel or have some type of moisture in some type of container that you're holding those in, they will desiccate. Seeds are the same way in a refrigerator. So it's good to try and keep them moist as best as possible. There's a couple different ways to do that. The way we've done it in the past is just every day go in with those seeds and just spritz them with a spray bottle. If the soil looks or feels dry, because with that stratification, most of the time it's just not the cold, but it's also the moisture, and that moisture with the cold is what triggers those seeds to then start growing, to germinate. So you might have the cold, but if you don't have the moisture, there's a good chance they're not gonna germinate. So spritz bottle, or if you want, put the seeds in, wet paper towel method, just paper towel, put the seeds down, another wet paper towel over the top, or fold that one, and just keep it wet, consistently wet, even inside the refrigerator on a plate or some type of tray or something. And that's a good way to do that.
That is a good way to do that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so
those are great questions, by the way, guys.
Cool. You guys, this has been a lot of fun. I can't believe we're mid-February already. That means we're closer to spring, so that's always, well, for some of us, or closer to fall for Southern Hemisphere friends.
Yeah. Yep. This has been a really interesting topic for us to just talk about here with you guys, and let us know if you found it interesting, if you want us to kind of cover more of these types of topics with more of a discussion like this instead of more of a presentation style that we've done in the past, because we like this. This was fun for us.
I know. I kind of like, it's almost more like kind of like a podcast almost, but not, because we have it's like a live audience. But
definitely.
But we definitely, if you have any suggestions of things you want us to bring up to the group, as a topic for a discussion, let us know.
Definitely.
You can always email us at seanandallison@spokengarden.com.
Yep.
Other than that, gosh, we're getting ready. We'll be in Seattle all next week. Next week's live on Saturday will be live from the Northwest Flower and Garden Show. So it kind of excites me to think about taking our discussion today and taking that into next week and walking around all the show gardens that we're going to show you and thinking about, those are more for design, right? But then you get into the individual components of those designs they came up with.
Well, the plants.
And looking at the plants, right?
Yeah.
And all the cool features.
Yeah, so we're going to definitely be live there. Like Allison said, we'll be in the garden, the show garden area. We're also going to try and transition during the live from there over to the city living, the little vignettes of different city gardening vignettes, designs, like our little booths over there. So we're going to try and cover that. It's all going to be on mobile. It's going to be on our phone, so it's going to be a completely different orientation, setup. So just forewarning you, if you're going to be there, be ready for us, like, not so much shaky, but definitely flipping the camera around and some different things going on.
But don't mind a little bit of shaky. We'll do our best.
And also, while we're there, I'm not saying this is going to happen. It's not going to be planned, but there possibly could be other of our garden friends pop in and out that we're going to see. So that could happen.
Hopefully they won't mind being live, because we pulled a couple people in last year and they were fine with it, but we kind of asked them, like, do you mind being on our live really quick? But that's kind of like on the spot. Yeah. Some people aren't okay with that.
Yeah, there are some people that don't like that, but that's okay. That's okay too.
We will definitely respect that.
So, so we'll be there. Hope we see you there. Definitely come again. Come say hi if you see us there. We'd love to meet you and just talk about stuff. And
definitely. And for those of you that are out of state and out of the area and won't be able to come to the show, we wish we could see you there. But follow us on Instagram, and also which is at Spoken Garden, just on Instagram. We'll be posting a lot next week. We might go live on Instagram, maybe. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then we'll also, like we said, this live, we'll be able to show you some really pretty stuff.
Yep. So thanks again, everybody, for being here. This was really fun. Fun topic for us again, and great questions.
Thank you.
Love all the questions, all the banter, all the chat. Really cool. You guys have a great weekend. Try and stay dry if it's raining there. If it's sunny, enjoy that weather.
I know.
Yeah.
A little jealous.
Yeah. So.
But you guys, thank you for being here. We'll see you next week, hopefully.
Yep. See you next week, guys.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.